Thanks for listening to Baxie's Musical Podcast. If you like what you hear today, be sure to like it, rate it, share it, tell everyone you know about it. You can also follow the show on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok for regular updates about upcoming guests. Today, we're brought to you by Metro Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram at Chicopee. Stop by their state-of-the-art dealership next to BJ's and Big Y on Memorial Drive, or stop by MetroJeep.com and make it Metro. And then drive home in your new Metro Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram today.
It's Baxie's Musical Podcast.
Not to sound like a jaded, cynical pessimist, but there are some things about the music industry that just don't make any sense. I'm not talking about the way things are today. I'm talking about the way things used to be, the good old days when music was still a lucrative business, back when you could release a record and people would buy it with actual money. Of course, this assumes a lot of things, including having a record company willing to invest in that record through sound business practices and marketing. There also needed to be a healthy dose of luck, good timing, plentiful distribution, and a few other things that I'm sure I'm forgetting about. But as you know, things don't always go as planned. Sometimes the success or failure of a record depends entirely on things that are impossible to control. And more often than not, records do not become commercially successful despite having all the elements and conventional wisdom that would have made it so, including having 3 Rock and Roll Hall of Famers involved in making that record. Case in point, let's look at the story of Jackdawg. Jackdawg was a band that in 1990 included Hall of Famers John McFee and Keith Knudsen from the Doobie Bros and Stu Cook from Creedence Clearwater Revival. I ask you, in what universe could something like this get messed up? Well, the short story goes like this. Jackdawg was a project in which these 3 guys wrote and recorded an album of 15 potentially radio-friendly songs. The record was well-produced, it sounded great, everything was ready to go, and that's when things went south. Due to some unfortunate circumstances, the album was shelved and went unreleased for another 19 years. That happened in 2009 when the Jackdawg album was released by Sonic Pass Music. Unfortunately, the record came out 4 years after the death of drummer Keith Knudsen. And while the record was a hit with critics, the Jackdawg record would eventually go out of print just a few years later. This year, Liberation Hall Records, in cooperation with both John McFee and Stu Cook, have given the record its first official vinyl release, including all 15 original tracks. It'll also come out on CD and digital as well. It's a really interesting story about a trio of incredibly accomplished musicians that have all had outstanding careers. That includes my guest today, multi-instrumentalist John McFee. John's career goes far beyond that of the Doobie Brothers and far beyond Jackdawg. John McFee has played with Van Morrison, Elvis Costello, Chicago, The Grateful Dead, Rick James, Huey Lewis and the News, Steve Miller, Bill Wyman, Boz Scaggs, and that's not even scratching the surface. And by the way, the Doobie Brothers have also just released their 16th studio album over the summer called Walk This Road, featuring part of the classic lineup including John himself, Patrick Simmons, Tom Johnston, and Michael McDonald. And so it is really exciting to talk with Rock and Roll Hall of Famer John McFee on Baxie's Musical Podcast. It's hard to imagine that you've been with the Doobie Brothers for 46 years. To me, you still seem like the new guy in the band.
That's, it's funny. That's a joke, a standing joke that Timothy B. Schmidt and I have, because I work with Timothy from the Eagles, and we talk about it. We're both still the new guy. him and the Eagles, and me with the Doobies. Yeah.
It's really funny, and I know we'll talk more about the Jackdawg record, but I didn't want to let the fact that the Doobie Brothers just released an album over the summer, Walk This Road, and it's funny that
Right.
you're playing with Tom Johnston and Patrick Simmons and Michael McDonald. I mean, these guys have been playing together forever, and here you are, only new on the block after 46 years.
Yeah. It's well, hey, it's been a good run for all of us, I think, and we're so happy to have Michael back. The last 5 or 6 years, however long it's been now. I just love Michael, so it's really great that he's back in the fold.
What is it like to play with these guys that you've been playing with for almost 5 decades with these guys? It must be kind of like kind of fun to go back and reminisce with these guys and play with them again. It must be really amazing.
Yeah, well, it's pretty great. Like I say, we are definitely lucky guys, and I think we all realize that. I think we, as a group, we appreciate it more and more as time goes by because a lot of good stuff has happened for us, and we, and we're still friends. And I don't know, it's, you know, we besides the musical stuff, we like you're talking about, we there's plenty of stories that circulate as we're out there on the road. And be like, hey, remember when that happened? And there's a lot of that, which is nice.
Yeah. To the album, which I've listened to a couple of times through, it's a really strong record, and you've had some pretty heavyweight people helping you out with it. McFleetwood is on it, Mavis Staples is on it. Tell me a little bit about that record.
Uh, well, it's really, Pat and Tom and Michael. They're the songwriters on it. I kind of stayed out of that, tried to get out of their way and let them, do what they want to do. I'm working on my own material elsewhere, but I'm just trying to be supportive and with what they've come up with and what they do and whatever they ask me to, hey, try something on this, I'll do it. So I was happy to play. It was pretty cool for me with Mavis Staples. I mean, come on, to
Really?
have her join us there again. What lucky guys are we, And I'm getting to play slide guitar on the track with her, and it's just like, wow. When I was younger, I was such a Staples Singers fan, and I never could have envisioned stuff like this. So
You joined the band 1978, 79, around that period, and after
right.
Jeff Baxter had left the band. How did you get involved with the Doobie Brothers? How did that invitation come?
Well, I'd known some of the guys for, just through playing around the Bay Area and everything for years. And I also, Ted Templeman, the Doobie's producer, I played on Ted Templeman's first hit record as a producer ever, on Wild Night by Van Morrison. I played on the Tupelo Honey and St. Dominic's Preview records that Teddy produced before the Doobie Brothers and before Van Halen and all the other stuff Teddy's done. So there were some connections there, but when I'd been in a Bay Area group called Clover, starting back in the
Right.
1960s, and we went through a lot of things, and ended up moving to England, and we were the band on Elvis Costello's "My Name Is True" album, and did all this stuff over there. But at a certain point, when we moved back from the UK, and we were having some business issues had to do with our management team, our British management team, made it hard for us to proceed as
Hmm.
Clover and pursue new record deals and stuff like that. And I was good friends with Keith Knudsen in particular in the Doobies, and Keith, actually my wife was talking to Keith's wife one day, and his wife at the time said, the Doobies, Jeff's leaving, and the band's looking for a replacement, and they'd love to ask John, but Keith knows John's turned down so many gigs to stay with Clover. They're just, it's probably not going to, bother him with it. But my wife said, wait a minute, there's a little bit of a different situation now. And so I ended up talking to Keith, and Keith invited me down, and I went and auditioned at the band's rehearsal place down south of San Francisco, and basically got offered the gig that day. It was pretty cool.
And the guys from Clover wind up working out pretty good too. I mean, it's
Well, yeah,
basic.
it evolved into Huey Lewis and the News, and
Yeah,
I played on a bunch of their records too.
yeah.
But
But they worked out okay. I mean, it was it all worked out for everybody,
they
right?
survived. It did. Well, in a funny way, I grew up. My musical roots are very hardcore country, and in the case of Clover, I was always pulling the band that direction. I think, or they allowed me to, for whatever reason. And I think I had too much musical influence and kept pulling them away from things that would have probably led to greater commercial acceptance. And when I left and joined the Doobies, and it kind of freed them up, and Huey and Sean and the guys got put together an ensemble where they found their thing,
Yeah.
and in a way I feel responsible for their success by just getting out of the way.
And you joined the Doobies at a pretty interesting time. I mean, they're coming off a Grammy-winning record. I mean, Michael McDonald's emerging
Right.
as this really important songwriter. It's a full-blown pop band at this point.
Right. So and I've always liked. I grew up playing country, but I've been influenced by everything,
Yeah.
and joining the Doobies seemed like to me a pretty natural fit because I'd always admired the band and liked them because they didn't it was a non-formulaic approach. They were open to trying different styles, and Black Water is nothing like China Grove, which is nothing like What a Fool Believes, and on and on. So it's stylistically the creativity was really admirable, and I felt very fortunate to team up with the guys, and we were all influenced by the group Moby Grape back in the day, the Bay Area, San Francisco sound, and so we had that in common, and it just felt like a pretty natural fit, really.
That version of the Doobie Brothers stayed together till about like 1983, and then you guys went on a hiatus, and you and
Right.
Keith decided to continue playing together, and you formed this band called Southern Pacific that
Right.
included Stu Cook from Creedence, but a couple other people too. And you stayed
Mhm.
together for, I think it was like 8 or 9 years, released a couple records. They're all really, really good records. But what happened to that band? Why did that one wind up dissolving?
Well, we did. There's actually 4 studio albums and a greatest hits package. So there's 5 Southern Pacific products that are out there, and because we did have hits, we had success, in the country market. We were signed to Warner Brothers Nashville, and worked with Jim Ed Norman as producer with us, and who did all the string arrangements on all the Eagles records and produced all kinds of stuff. But Jim Ed's a great guy, and so it was a good relationship. But we kind of felt like we were fighting Nashville, and that was one of the issues, and it got complicated too towards the end with. We had some problems with our management, and that kind of discouraged us. And so at a certain point, Keith and Stu and I, because by the time it was getting towards the end of Southern Pacific, we were a 4-piece with Keith and Stu and myself and a keyboard player named Kurt Howell, who's a great singer, great player, great guy. But Kurt lived in Nashville and we lived in California. And so Keith and Stu and I just started fooling around in my studio. By the way, this is the studio where
That's the
we
room.
recorded a lot of the Southern Pacific music, and as well as all the Jackdawg music. But we started. Let's do something different. Let's just try stuff where we just try to be creative, and that's how Jackdawg evolved out of the
Yeah.
final smoldering Southern Pacific ashes.
I mean, you certainly did do something new. I mean, Jackdawg is 180 degrees away from Southern Pacific. It's about as far away from
Right.
like a country rock it's album as you're ever going to get.
Pretty much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but what was the idea of the change of direction? Did it just like come naturally to you guys once you started writing or playing together? I mean, obviously there's some intention. There's some intention to play something different, but how did it get to that point where it kind of like started to form seriously?
Well, I think that all of us, Keith and Stu and I, have come from a musical background that includes a lot of different styles, and maybe I'm the hardest as far as hardest core country influenced person in the group, but we all had that and other things, and definitely we'd all obviously been rockers. I mean, Stu was in Creedence, and Keith and I in the Doobies. So we had been doing the country thing with Southern Pacific, and the idea was we haven't gotten to play much rock for a while. Let's just fool around with some. That's really it was as simple as that, and without really restricting it to any particular flavor of rock or country influenced rock or not or blues influenced or whatever it might have been. It was just no clear goal or anything other than make music we liked. Really,
It's the story behind Jackdawg is actually really interesting because it's there's this, obviously you guys get together, you're writing a bunch of songs, you record. I think it was like 15 15 songs. I'm actually looking at the record right now. You record like 15
Right.
songs, and you get to the point where you record the record. It's not demos, but it's a record at this point. All you need
Right.
is a label to start distributing it, signing you guys, and pushing you and promoting it. And that's
Right.
where things start to get a little complicated in the sense that you wind up suffering like a tragic loss while doing this. Explain that story a little
Right.
bit if you can.
Well, if you're engaged in trying to make music and get it out to the public for long enough, there's going to be a certain amount of just mishaps or bumps in the road. And in the case of the evolution of Jackdawg, by the time we had some material and realized, God, we could really, maybe we should seek a label or put this out or do something with it. And I had, when I was in Clover and we were trying to get record deals, at one point we were being managed by a fellow named Joe Gottfried, who was one of the founders of Sound City Studios, and the legendary studio in Los Angeles where so many great records have been made. And I suggested, why don't we see if Joe Gottfried is interested? He's an honest, good guy, and he knows the business, and let's see if he's interested. Well, we approached Joe, and he said, I like this. Yeah, let me see what I can do. And we were still kind of sort of, I guess, I don't know whether we were mixing or what, but kind of trying to finalize what it was going to be musically as far as this. We had the material, we had all the stuff recorded. Now it's not like, let's get it finished. And by the time Joe about ready to really have Joe start taking it around, unfortunately, he wasn't a young guy, and all of a sudden he passed away. So that really kind of, I don't know, put a damper on it, took the wind out of our sails, whatever. And meanwhile, Keith and I were being talked to about, hey, why don't you guys come back to the Doobies? We want to do some more stuff here. We got drawn back into the Doobie Brothers, and Stu was talking to Doug Clifford, the drummer from Creedence. And that's when they started putting together the Creedence Clearwater Revisited thing
right.
that they did for a number of years. Right.
Yeah.
We all got kind of sidetracked because of we just kind of went, oh man, I don't know. So the tracks just sat there for quite a while.
Yeah, I mean, I was curious about it because you could have theoretically kept on trying to find other options, after Joe had died, and maybe find somebody else to distribute this or to find another label.
Right.
But then again, I mean, you guys are all very, very busy musicians, and whether it's the Doobie Brothers or Creedence Revisited or whatever it want to be, it really was you guys just ran out of time on this.
Well, yeah, and as as musicians, we're maybe we're a little easily distracted or sidetracked, or just plain scatterbrained. I don't know, but we lost focus really with trying to push something.
Yeah.
And the whole time, the whole intent was never about we're going to be the biggest thing in the world. It was more like let's just make some cool music. And so our motivation wasn't really like, we'll be the toppermost of the poppermost and all that stuff.
you're not the Beatles, obviously, but
no,
but this thing sits on a shelf for 18, 19 years before it ever sees the light of day. And it's like, in 2009, all of a sudden there's conversations about maybe releasing it, maybe finding someone who can get this thing out there. And I believe it was Sonic Past Music that does it in 2009.
Yeah.
How did that even come about where all of a sudden it becomes a discussion again?
Well, the Sonic Past thing came about actually, speaking of Sound City, Joe Gottfried's recording studio, when Clover was together and Joe was handling us and trying to get us a record deal, we went into Sound City with Keith Olsen producing us. No record deal, but just let's cut some tracks and try to get a record deal. And those tracks stayed in Sound City, and Joe, as we had a production deal with Joe, so Sound City had the rights to them, or Joe did, and this the founder of Sonic Past Music is a guy named Joey Steck, who's also a musician. But I got a call from Joey, and he says, "Look, I've procured the rights to this, you guys tracks you cut at Sound City, and I want to put it out as a record." So that's how I met Joey, and so through these Clover track. So there's a product, Clover, the Sound City sessions. And he says, you got anything else that nobody's really ever heard? Because he was looking for kind of obscure things by people that had a track record of making music that people liked and stuff. So, well, there's this thing that Keith and Stu and I did called, we called it Jackdawg, and, I'll play it for you. And so that's how that happened.
Yeah.
So Joey liked it and ended up putting it out on Sonic Past.
Now,
but there was not a lot of promotion or anything else. So.
Right. So, I mean, and by that point, Keith had already passed away too. So, I mean, it's just, it really,
right.
At that point, it's just you and Stu. But when it
Mhm.
does come out, people are hearing it for the first time, and critics are liking it. But it didn't, commercially speaking, by 2009, things kind of had moved along in the record
Right.
industry, and kind of wasn't able to
Hey,
to catch fire. Though
I-
maybe
I'll, I'll be honest about something. I've never known how the music business works and what it takes to really make something splash.
I don't think the music industry knows how the music industry works.
Well, in a way, I don't think so either. From what I'm seeing, it's a pretty random thing.
Yeah.
So you never know. And things like, well, Elvis Costello. I remember the first review of the first single was, which I think was Less Than Zero, said it was this really positive write-up of how great the music was and the songwriting. This guy's incredible. And the last line was, "Too bad it doesn't have a snowball's chance in hell." But somehow that product on a little independent label, Stiff Records, that Clover's management team had started up in England, it succeeded, and
Yeah.
it's what launched Elvis this huge career for this. Elvis has the talent to warrant it, but it who knows, man?
It's a,
How things really happen, you know.
it's a crapshoot. The more you learn about it, the more you hear about other records that survived or didn't survive. You're just like, well, it's like
Hmm.
it's the luck of the draw sometimes. But thankfully, I think Elvis was able to get beyond that backhanded compliment. I think he did okay for himself.
Oh yeah,
So
no kidding. Yeah, he really did. So
so the album, the Jackdawg album, soon after it was released in 2009, goes out of print, and again, it's kind of lost in the ethers for years, and then suddenly there's discussion about bringing it back again for a reissue with
Mhm.
Liberation Hall. Liberation Hall does as you know, they do a lot of work with kind of historical recordings, bringing things back, and a
Right.
lot of really interesting stuff. How
Hmm.
did those conversations start? What was the impetus of bringing it back for a reissue?
Yeah, well, I think it's kind of interesting because Stu and I have stayed in touch constantly through the decades. I knew Stu before Creedence hit it big. We go back to the '60s and have done a lot of different things together through the years, and so we've stayed in touch. And about, I don't know, a while back, within the last probably year or so, he said, John, I've got a lot of free time. What if I took and saw if there was any interest in putting Jackdawg out? He says, because I really like that stuff. I think it's, people should have a chance to hear it. So I said, yeah, run with it. And so, well, Stu made the contact. Stu did some research and somehow, I'm not sure all the details, but he ended up talking to Liberation Hall and kind of putting together, they were interested. And the next thing we know, hey, here it is. It's on vinyl and CD. It's a real thing.
When it had been on the shelves for like 18, 19 years or however long it had been, and you hear this music again after all that
Mm-hmm.
time, what was your thought about
Right.
it? I mean, did you was it like a positive experience? Was it what was your impression to hear it again after all that time?
It's mostly positive. I mean, there's a few things where I'm going, God, I wish I'd done this or that. But a lot of it, I'm going, wow, that's pretty impressive. I mean, some of my guitar playing, I'm going, wow, I'm pretty hot.
I'm a
and
talented fella.
and yeah, no, but because of the fact that we were doing it simply because we were trying to find things that we liked musically, I still like it musically. It
Yeah.
makes sense to me. The intent, all of the intentions seem to be in the right places and stuff. And I don't know, I like it. Feel good about it.
Your career is pretty amazing. As I'm doing the research, I'm realizing how much you have done. I mean, I know you've been around for a long time. I knew about the Clover stuff, but I'm going, Jesus, I can't believe he. I mean, I completely forgot about the Van Morrison, Grateful Dead, Steve Miller, Nick Lowe, the Beach Boys, and then I stumble across
Right,
Rick James, and all I can think of is, oh my gosh,
right.
Rick James. I'm thinking of like
I
the
know.
the Dave Chappelle stories, and I'm thinking, okay, well, tell me about Rick James.
Rick, Rick, for whatever reason, he asked me to play on this record, and I was like, okay, great. And he was super nice to me, and totally, and he was a talented guy,
Yeah.
but that's another project that was, so many of these things that come out of the blue. And I look back at it, and if you think you are going, wow, he did all this, sometimes I'm going, did I really do that? I was like, Janice Ian, I saw this Saturday Night Live movie or whatever it was, and Janice Ian was on the first episode. And I'm going, God, I played on a Janice Ian record. and I played with Link Ray. I played on a Link Ray album. I mean, it's like the variety of people I've had a chance to work with. It's, man, talk about lucky guys. I am maybe the luckiest of all.
I mean, obviously, most people will probably know you for the longevity you've had with the Doobie Bros, as like we talked about before. I know you guys were supposed to play at Hyde Park on Jeff Lynne's final show, and that got canceled literally the day, or maybe like the day and a half before that show, due to some health concerns. That had to be completely surreal. I mean, you're all ready and set to go, ready to get on stage, and all of a sudden it's canceled.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, like you say, it was very sudden. And in fact, as I recall, we weren't sure that it was canceled until like the night before the show or the day of the show, almost, really. So it was really a last minute call. And for us, it was like, that's a drag. That's not great. We were really looking forward to it, especially because Steve Winwood was on the bill, and we'd become really good friends with those guys. We'd done a lot of touring with them the year before with Winwood and his band, and I was looking forward to seeing them again. And all of a sudden, it's not happening, and that was bad, in a lot of ways for us. But we were over there doing other shows. We played the O2 Arena in London a week later, or whenever it was, and so we had all of our other shows, but that was the big one, and it was really a disappointment for us. But what I felt bad about was there were people that flew in from Japan or Atlanta or wherever that were in England, and they were there. They've gone to the expense of the travel and everything else, and all of a sudden it's not happening.
Yeah.
And I'm going, man, that would really be bad.
I mean, I knew people that were supposed to go, and they were so disappointed because, I mean, it's Jeff Lynne's had this amazing careers as not just a songwriter, but producer. I mean, just a tremendous talent. But I know I don't have you for a whole lot of time here, because I know you got other obligations today. But there's so much I want to ask you. I wish you talked about some of the things that you are working on right now. You said you're working on some of your own music. I mean, are the Doobie Brothers kind of on a hiatus now, or is that going to be? Are you guys going to get back on the road at some point? This year or next year?
We have like 3 more shows to do this year, and we have one this month, one in November, and one in December. They're all isolated, and so we're basically through with the touring year. We did a fair amount, and next year, I know that the booking agency and management are working on that, but I don't know anything specific about the plan yet. But there's always, we never rest.
So in other words, the bags are packed. They just haven't been put on a plane yet.
Yeah, but I'm working on some stuff with Dave Mason right now, who's retired from the road.
Yeah.
But we've got some recording things we're working on, and I'm working with a young British group from Carlisle called Hardwick Circus. I've been producing some stuff on. So I've got things to do.
Well, I didn't expect that you were going to be have a lot of free time in your hands. I mean, I didn't expect you ever have a lot of free time in your hands.
I don't seem to know how to take time off. So.
Well, John, this has been great. I'm so glad that I got to spend at least a little bit of time with you today. Jackdawg is awesome. The new Doobie Brothers record is great, and I appreciate you taking the time. Great to talk to you.
Thank you. Likewise.
Thank you, John.
You did a great job.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks, John. Take care. The reissue of the original Jackdawg record is now available on Liberation Hall Records, and Walk This Road, the new Doobie Brothers album, is out as well. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can email me at bax@rock102.com. I'd love to hear what you think. Thanks to Metro Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram of Chicopee for their support, but most of all, thanks to you for listening to Baxie's Musical Podcast.